What if your legacy could build others up when it comes to their dreams, business, and then ultimately their legacy? I'd like to welcome Drew Carmichael to the Design Your Legacy podcast this lovely day. Welcome, Drew.
Hello, how are you doing, Angelina?
I am great, and you're joining today from Australia.
Indeed, I am. Australia, all the way over here down under. I'm sure you're surprised that I'm not standing on my head right now, but man, it is good to be here. Some of the guests that you've had on this podcast, I am genuinely humbled to be on here, and I'm very, very keen to share my legacy that I seek to build. Already somewhat built, but definitely on my way there. And also, so a bit of tips if there's business owners watching or anyone to actually take away from this call as well and learn or implement into their own business or life, or the little tidbits that I could possibly give from where I'm currently at.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I am curious about the backstory. We'll jump into the first question. So I think you're about 20 years old and you run this
That's right.
amazing business right now where you don't have to worry about money. So what's the backstory? You graduated from high school and you said to yourself, the sky is the limit with the internet.
Mm. Look, I can guarantee you the one thing that I worry about every single day, actually, I'd worry about two things. I worry about relationships and I worry about money. Because, goodness me, our business right now is built on managing people and relationships. So I worry about relationships because we need to have good relationships with the clients, our team, and also with future possibilities that could come across our business. But I definitely worry about money too because goodness gracious, there's been some challenges, and running a business is definitely not, as everyone says, definitely not easy. So yeah, look, I came out of school, and during school actually I was running a few e-com stores, and that was where everything sort of started. There was this massive craze in Australia where they had collectibles, and little Drew in grade 8 started selling them, and from there I've scaled up and gone through Amazon, sold things on Amazon, sold things on e-com stores, and really scaled up. And then as I was graduating, I was at a Sky show, and this guy that I was just happened to be talking to said that he had an e-com store as well. And I said, goodness gracious, I have an e-com store. And he said, I do too. And we then collaborated, and I gave him 3 tips on things that he could improve the store with that I've done for my store. And he came back to me a few weeks later. We exchanged numbers, and he said, Drew, this really helped us. This guy was actually 20 or 21 at the time. So I think I was about 18. And he came back, and he literally doubled his revenue. He did 10K in his store, he did 20, and then he did 20K. And that's nothing by any means, especially the volume that I was doing at the time, and all of that sort of thing. But for him, 10K to 20K was everything. And he came back and he said, Drew, I want to pay you to give me some help. So we did. And that was my first client. And from there, in fact, the last 30 days, I could share my screen right now, but I probably don't need to. He has done over $100,000 in revenue, and he's 22.
Wow. Well, I think the internet is the great equalizer, and I think that
Mm,
anyone that is willing to get in there and learn and keep learning and work through the growing pains, because the internet's very interesting. The
yeah,
internet, the buyer on the other side doesn't necessarily care your age, your gender, anything about you. If you can solve their problem, they will buy
yeah.
from you, and they will
You're
buy
entirely right.
24/7.
You are entirely right, Angelina. That's funny. I hop on a lot of podcasts and people say, how do you deal with your age? And I go,
It's not a
I don't
factor.
even consider it. It's not a factor because if
Yeah.
you can solve people's problems, if you can genuinely help them, show them proof that you can help them, and obviously the proof is in the pudding,
Hmm.
then they don't care how old you are.
Hmm.
As long as the money's coming into their bank account, they're laughing.
Well, absolutely. So I'm curious again, were you an
Mm,
entrepreneur in high school? Like, were you sitting at your desk and you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I can work for a company. And I'm wondering if
yeah.
that's the way, because, and
Mm.
I don't know, did your parents receive a paycheck on the 1st and the 15th? Were they a part of a family business?
Great question. No, great question. I can start from the start. So, on mum's side of the family, her family migrated to Australia in the end of the war, during the war, when there was a bunch of concentration camps in Europe. And in
Okay.
fact, her family was they got brought out of a concentration camp, shoved into Australia. They migrated on a boat to Australia and started some really tough work building railways for the war effort in Australia during that time. So they were living in Slovenia, they got put in a concentration camp, and then they had to build railways in Australia. I genuinely have no comprehension on how tough that would have been. But the fact of the matter is, when I think of that, I go, holy moly, I got to do some work. Then on the other side of the family, my father's dad left his home at the age of 17 and
In
barely went
Slovenia
back
or where?
in Australia.
Okay,
So
okay.
dad's side of the family is Australian, mum's side of the family is Slovenian. And the fact of the matter was that both of those sides, it's left me at a funny crossroad because I either keep building on that legacy that they've managed to leave and they've managed to, in fact, create,
Hmm.
or I go down the easy route of just going, all right, enough is enough. Let's just keep pedaling on.
Okay.
But yeah, so during school, to answer your question, I wasn't really a popular guy. I wasn't the fastest guy. I barely did any sports. But what I
Okay.
did love to do was create and build. And I think that's funny how it lends it into your ideology of building legacies because I love to create. And obviously, a 15-year-old guy, which I once was, couldn't create any meaningful legacy, but he could definitely start building and keep persisting on building something and setting the needle further, which is what I did. And I sold those collectibles, which was a massive thing in Australia. And then when that started to pedal out, I went into Amazon. And there were many, many failures associated with Amazon, many failures across the board.
Hmm.
But the only thing I had to do was keep pushing on. Obviously, there was no, I wouldn't call it a failure, but no hardship in comparison with that of my ancestors moving out of Slovenia in a concentration camp. But still, everything, you just got to keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that story so amazing because many times
Mm,
young individuals, young people, they don't
yeah,
necessarily have the same limiting beliefs. And so I
yeah.
look back and I think, isn't it interesting? Because with some young individuals these days, Gen Z, the sky is the limit. I mean, truly, if they are
Mm,
willing to lean into their imagination and not worry about looking bad, and they see
100%.
failure as something like failing forward fast, they're not going to get hung up
Yeah.
on it. It's like a brand new
Yeah.
world.
Failing forward fast, I 100% agree with that. Um, a lot of folks, a lot of young people have gotten over that. And it's funny. On a lot of podcasts I hop on and they go, no one else is doing this. And I go, well, that's
Mhm.
actually not right. And I really appreciate you bringing that up, Angela, because other people are doing it. Young folks have discovered that failing forward is the better thing to do. And I really like that about some young people. And in fact, our team at the Cultivator, we have team across Australia, Philippines, and USA. And obviously, the guys in the Philippines aren't doing the strategy as much, but every single person in our team, we tell them that you got to just keep pushing and keep, I wouldn't say failing because failing with a client's a bit different to failing internally, but you just keep have to re-engineering things and keep molding yourself because AI is changing, the internet is changing, everything's developing at such a fast pace that we've onboarded some older folks. We've
Of
onboarded some
course.
40-year-olds. Yeah, we've onboarded some 50-year-olds into our team, but we've actually found that our team members who are 20 in their 20s have outperformed these folks because they're able to adapt, they're able to change. And funnily enough, one of our team members that we've onboarded in the USA recently has actually taken over the role of some guy that's double his age because he was just able to get stuff done so much quicker with AI and all the implementations to a higher level that we just go, you can't compete with that.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting. Your generation probably grew up with tablets. My generation grew up with like both like
Yeah,
a
right?
physical book, a physical newspaper regarding home delivery. But like I
Yeah.
think your generation grew up with tablets. And so I know a little bit about internet marketing, and then we're going to jump into the first question, but in terms of what like they call A/B testing. So it's like you'll
Yeah.
try like A, and if that doesn't work, you're simultaneously running like B and C and D, and it's just not
Yep.
personal. You're just looking for the results. And on
Yep.
top of that, in 2025, two-thirds of today's affluent are self-made. So they're
Yep.
not waiting for anything. They're
Yep.
racing to the middle of the football field because they're trying to figure out what's going to work. And college and
Yeah.
university can't even catch up to them.
100%. And with this momentum of everyone's pushing towards this goal, and I would really like to touch on work-life balance at some stage in this
Yeah,
podcast
do it right
because
now because I'm curious.
sure.
Because if
Okay.
you're going at like, I mean, I think, okay, you're 20 years old, you could go at 85 miles an hour because you have the energy.
Yep. And that is exactly what we're doing. I personally, I have a lot of mates who actually I don't have a lot of mates, but I have a lot of mates who are in university. And
Okay.
with university, they promote work-life balance.
Of
They
course.
promote, hey, you got to do this work and you can't study because you got to go out and do some exercise, or if you're not doing exercise, blah blah blah. Obviously, I exercise, I go to the gym, but also I work almost 24/7. We have team in Australia, we have team in the USA, and as people are clocking off in Australia, they're clocking on in the USA.
Which I
Go
think,
ahead.
yeah, I think it's great. So if you create a system, that is amazing. But I also wonder
Yeah.
if so one of the things when you're young, money can be addictive. And so like
Mm,
how do you turn it off when it's like almost like high frequency trading? That's like the internet when it's like orders are
yeah.
coming in and people are buying and deposits are going into your bank account.
Mm. Great question. I don't believe in work-life balance.
Interesting. I'm not
I
surprised.
Yeah, I believe in working non-stop. In fact,
Okay.
I had a friend of mine sent me a message yesterday and said, "Hey, can we have a tennis match at 6 p.m.?" And we
Hmm.
played from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. At 7 p.m., halfway through, our team was clocking on in the USA, and
Okay.
also I had a couple of messages from clients, and I just had to sit down and get it done,
Okay.
right? Because I don't want them to wait for me.
Hmm.
I'd much prefer to get this done and today focus on onboarding new clients, getting more momentum, and just keep scaling the company. Because why wait? Why wait?
Yeah.
I tell you, I have a funny saying that this is just a random saying. The Aston Martin's not going to buy itself, right? And we just got to keep pushing.
Yeah. Okay. So that leads me to the first question then. All right. So you've built this business generating millions in
Yep.
revenue. When
Yep.
you look beyond the money, what does success mean to you at this stage of your life?
Great question. Great question. Look, I'm working towards something bigger. Obviously, money doesn't doesn't mean everything to me, but
Hmm.
it's a lever to be able to do what I want to do in the future,
And you're
right?
lucky that you're good in business. Some people are naturally good. Keep going.
Oh, I can guarantee you I'm not naturally good. I just
Oh,
work too much. I just
okay.
I just put in a lot of effort. And if things go wrong, which they do, and I'm
Okay.
also not the luckiest guy in the world either. So I just put in so much effort that luck is not a question,
And that's
right?
interesting. That's interesting. Some people say that they will outwork anyone else, or what they call last man or last woman standing.
Mhm. I'm not going to say that I'm one of those people,
Okay.
but I'm definitely giving it a good crack. Hey,
Okay.
I don't like saying that I'm better than everyone else,
Okay.
but man, if you want to challenge me to working hard, I'll give you a run for your money.
Well, you got
And
the energy. You got the
oh
energy
yeah,
right now.
oh yeah.
Okay. All right.
Um,
So tell me what success means to you.
Great question, great question. Look, in the future, it is my goal to help people build their dreams in a
Okay.
way that they can just reach some sort of comfortable level of prosperity. And that is the whole point of the cultivator, right?
Okay.
The reason behind the name is cultivate. When you cultivate seeds, you help them grow, right? And you
Okay.
prepare the ground, you prepare the farm to be ready to grow this crop. And that's the whole point of our brand, because I personally want to get to the stage where we're global across many different countries, not just Australia and the US, and we're
Hmm.
helping build their dreams and also bring people uh, through this journey of business because it's a really hard journey and assist them reach what they want to do because so many people come up with great ideas, right?
Hmm.
I, I come up with a bunch of ideas. I'm sure, Angela, you come up with ideas, and so many of your viewers come up with great ideas, but not everyone have the means to actually enact them,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Seed
And
capital, mindset.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And how good would it be is, and for humanity as a whole, if we could collectively move forward and someone comes up with a great idea and they don't have to go through the stress of giving away 80% of their business to some random investor that might have a predisposition notion of where they want this business to go instead, right? The the whole point of my cultivator brand is to assist people with scaling their dream and building it through obviously marketing it because you can't sell a secret, but
Hmm.
also giving back. And I'd love to touch on this crazy adventure I went to Samoa sometime in this podcast as well, because that in itself was there are so many people in this world that have great ideas, but they don't
Hmm.
even have the internet.
Yeah. Where is that country again that you went to?
Mm. Samoa. So it's
Oh, yeah, Samoa.
yeah,
Okay.
not American Samoa. So there's two Samoas. There's American Samoa and just Samoa. I
Okay.
went to Samoa.
Okay.
they're islands relatively close to each other in the Pacific Islands. But I went there on part of a teaching adventure, right? To
Okay.
teach these kids up to grade 13. Now they have an extra grade 13. I'm not sure why, but anyway, it's the final grade of their school. And visiting there, it was one of the most touching experiences because I didn't live, I wasn't residing in a hotel. I was actually living with the families in their house with no walls, we weren't sleeping on a bed. We had no hot water. There was there was electricity, a little bit of it, but no air conditioners, no internet. And that was tough, especially running a business while I was there. But beside the point, I don't really care about the business for this part of the story. The Samoan people are genuinely great folks. They're so down to earth. Family means everything for them, and the they come up with some great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So why can't personally, I'm not at the stage right now to go out to Samoa and go, "Hey, I can make your dreams a reality." Yet,
Mm-hmm.
but that is one of my goals to be able to go to a country like that and go, "Hey guys, let's give you some help." The biggest contention point on that though is that because of their cultural understanding,
Okay.
they value family a lot more than business, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be attacked in a different way than it does in a Western country like, well, they are Western, I guess, but a country like America or Australia where people are just gun ho on business.
Mm-hmm.
But still, they come up with some great ideas, and sharing that with the world would mean everything.
Well, I think what you're referring to is the love that they have. I think a lot of times in Western
Mm,
culture, it's very individual centric. And then when you go to
100%.
certain other ethnic cultures, it's all about the family. It's all about the group.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So why did you care? Like, why go and teach? Why go and be willing to live without walls and air conditioning and internet?
Whew. That's a great question. Because I just want to help out. It was an opportunity that came across me.
Okay.
And why say no?
Okay. Interesting. So
Why
you'll give up the tennis game, but you won't give up helping Samoans.
tennis, did you say?
Tennis, like if your friend calls up and says, "Hey, would you like to play tennis?" Or
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. No, great question. Of course. Because that's different, right? You could play tennis another day. But
okay,
when am I going to get the opportunity, especially with the one that came across my desk was pretty much, hey, we have these dates
okay,
that you're ready to come in. There is a
okay.
shortage of teachers at this school. And why give up an opportunity to give back to such a community for weeks and weeks on end? We could just go play tennis another day.
Yeah, I think it's
Right.
brilliant. I think it's brilliant regarding the vision that you have, but I also
Mm.
think it's brilliant that there's nothing stopping you. No
I
one's got to
appreciate
work
that.
through any limiting beliefs. You just see it. You see the
Yeah.
vision.
Look, there's a lot of space in the world to grow for everyone.
Hmm.
And the world itself right now is moving so fast,
Hmm.
but it needs to, there are aspects of everywhere that need to move faster to keep up with other ones.
Hmm.
AI is advancing so quickly, but what about the size of construction businesses? What about the size of infrastructure that's getting built? What about the size of little corner stores that need a bit more scaling to keep up with the larger magnates that have the money behind them to keep pushing forward, right?
Hmm.
There is so much momentum behind massive chains, and all the little SMEs, small to medium businesses, are just getting left behind because they don't have those extra assets or extra facilities to keep pushing them forward.
And to
Same with
run,
smaller countries.
yeah, and
Yeah,
to run with the giants.
100%.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, fascinating. Do your parents have a big heart to care? That do they like,
I would never say anything ill about my parents,
okay,
so I'm going to say yes. But
okay,
look, the of course they've definitely tried their best to support me through this journey.
okay.
Um, there's been a bit of contention around the decision not to go to university,
Ooh.
but um, you know, there's only so much I can do about that, right?
Hmm.
I just have to show them, and that's more pressure putting on my shoulders. I just have to show them my decision was worth it, which
Well,
so far,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think number one, if they understand that universities are trying to keep up with the pace of business, which is a different
yeah.
mindset, because
Mm,
I think if I don't know how old your parents are, but if I think about my parents, it was a thought of you get one job, you get the pension, and
mm,
university and receiving that degree is a status symbol. And
Mm.
yet today, if you can make $3 or $4 million and put that into a financial portfolio where your money is making money for you compared to you
Yeah.
putting the time and the energy in, that's like a whole other realm.
Yeah.
And some people
Totally.
understand that, and other people it's like it takes them a moment.
Yeah. Well, look, the fact of the matter was that I did apply to go to university, and
Hmm.
I did actually go for a week or two until we got the results back for I had a scholarship submitted, and the money wasn't a problem. It was the
Hmm.
principle that my scholarship was denied, and
Okay.
this scholarship was on the basis of business. So you had to submit a business that you run and all that sort of thing, and they said they were gonna make the distinction on the individual with the most potential with their business or the most success that they've had in their business, something along those lines. I don't know what happened, but I just wasn't even considered, and they just totally ghosted me. So the fact of the matter was that that was a bit of a considering the fact that they decided to pick someone whose their business was not even running yet in
Okay.
comparison with me with actually running the business. Uh, so another scholarship individual went through. I sort of sat there and I went, these people aren't valuing actually running a business. They're saying they have a business faculty,
Hmm.
but it's not it's not actually focused on founders.
Well, it's interesting also because if you were running a business at that time, I don't know if you were or not, what if
Yeah,
you challenged that professor or that administrator or that college professional and they didn't know what to do with you? Because it's like if Jeff Bezos wants to sit, Jeff Bezos who runs Amazon.com, if he's
100%.
running a business and it is so successful, what can that university professor teach him?
Well, that's right. I was sitting in a classroom, and for the this is a very controversial subject to bring up, especially in America right now. But there was an individual sitting at the lecturer was sitting at the front of the class, and
Hmm.
he was talking about entrepreneurship. He was
Hmm.
talking about entrepreneurs. He was talking about what his thoughts on were on entrepreneurs, and he said one sentence that made me reconsider as well the whole point of the university. He said that Elon Musk is not an entrepreneur. And I sat there and I went, regardless of what you think of regardless of what you think of Elon Musk,
Hmm.
he has a lot of money and he's built some massive things.
Hmm.
And this lecturer standing at the front of the class, worth nothing near Elon Musk,
Hmm.
had the audacity to say to everyone that he was educating young, malleable individuals that had aspirations to be successful, that Elon Musk is not an entrepreneur, was a card for me to sit there and I go, what is this guy even talking about?
And I think that's one of the things that's going to happen with entrepreneurs out there, particularly young ones that are just going to be racing forward. And then what if the professor or whoever is mentoring them, if they haven't gone out and done something similar or better, how can they guide them? What can they
Exactly.
contribute? How can they add value?
Exactly. Well, you don't go to a personal trainer that's not in you don't go to a personal trainer that's not in the shape that you want to become, right?
Correct, correct.
Um,
That's, yeah. That's like taking
so
money advice from a poor person or relationship advice from
exactly.
someone who's divorced.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let me circle back for a moment. So you're self-made
Yeah.
and you carry a powerful family history rooted in Slovenia. And I think we mentioned, we talked about in our preamble that Melania Trump in the United States, who is the president's wife, is
Yes.
also from Slovenia, which is great because I feel
Yeah.
like she kind of put it on the map.
Well, that's right. No. Yeah, that's right. And that's why I have all my good looks, right? I got them from
You should just say Melania is my cousin.
yeah, I'm going to be saying that now. If I go into border control and they ask me any questions, I'm going to be like, in Los Angeles, I'm going to say to them, hey, yes, Melania is my cousin. And they're going to go, yeah, let this guy through.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. It's better to be on the side of the Trump administration these days. Okay, how does that history then influence the way that you think about life in your future today?
Whew. It puts, as I said before, it puts pressure on me. You
Okay.
know, I don't want to let anyone down. And the fact of the matter is, I just think, look, all of these folks that have come before me and my family have put so much effort into becoming who they were, even though
Hmm.
it was nothing, it was nothing absolutely extraordinary. But when you look at where they started, it is phenomenal, right? They had to put up with all of the terrible conditions in concentration camps, the terrible
Hmm.
conditions in the boat, the absolutely strenuous conditions assembling this railway in the extremely hot temperatures of North Australia, right? So the all of that combined, I'm sitting here going, well, I can't let these folks down. I got to keep pushing, right?
Well, there's a
So,
certain, I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a
mm,
certain, I almost want to say the word tenacity. There's a certain drive of if you have to have like the muscle power, it's almost like running like a
yeah,
marathon to get
yeah,
through it. And then it's like, well, how do you complain to them if you want
exactly.
to give up?
Exactly. Yeah, you can't. You virtually can't. You're letting down this whole bloodline of people who've just absolutely worked their butts off to get to where they are. And
Okay.
and that's why I don't believe in a work-life balance, because if you look at these folks coming from a concentration camp, if
Hmm.
they didn't work straight away when they got to Australia, they
Hmm.
would still be sleeping on dirt, right?
Yeah, the human spirit's amazing.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And there was no work-life balance when they came to Australia. They couldn't go, oh, wait a minute, I'm just going to go to the gym today because I feel like having a day off.
Hmm.
No. They needed to work and build that railway and get the little morsels of money that they were getting from
Hmm.
building that railway. And, if they're in that concentration camp, or when they were in the concentration camp, if they go, oh, no, let me just take a day off.
Well, I
Do you
think
think that
there's,
would?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's something about the value of time. If somebody takes
100.
time away from you, you value it more. Like
Mm.
you're not going to just squander it or waste it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one, actually. When I talk to my grandfather, he's getting towards the end of his life, and
Hmm.
he looks at life a lot differently to the way that younger people look at it, because he goes, he's turning 80 in a month, and he
Hmm.
goes, look, the average lifespan, I only have a few more years left, if then,
Hmm.
right? His father died at 78, so he's already outlived him.
Hmm.
And he goes, I don't know how long I have left, right? And he is doing absolutely everything that he can to make the most of his life right now, right? He's catching up with all of his sons. He's catching up with, everyone that means a lot to him. He's spending time with his wife. He's visiting these places. He's making the most of it. But younger people, when they're at the start of their life, they go, oh yeah, no, it's all good. I'll do it next Friday. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next
Hmm.
month. Maybe we'll look at it next year. But
Hmm.
my grandfather's not doing that because he doesn't even know that he has a next year.
I know it's so interesting. Some people, if I'm on the freeway, I think you're going to be visiting Los Angeles shortly, and if I look
Yeah.
on the freeway to the left and my right, it's like sometimes people, and a part of this is if they get trapped in a job that they don't love, they're like
Mm.
waiting to die. And I think the
Yeah.
contrast that you're pointing the flashlight to is when somebody values time that much, they're not waiting to
Yeah.
die. They're trying to live into each day to the fullest. Like,
Yeah.
how can I soak this day in?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. That definitely, as soon as one stops appreciating the time that they have, I look at them and I go, you just need to reconsider your options here, because that's what's tough with an office job, right?
Hmm.
It's like The Incredibles. I don't know if you've seen The Incredibles
I
on
have
Disney.
not. What is that a
Oh,
movie or is that
it
a
is a movie. It is a
okay?
movie.
Do
I'm
tell.
referring to it. It's a kids movie, but it has a very good anecdote or metaphor. And this massive, muscly guy who used to be a superhero was sitting in a insurance job office in a massive maze of office blocks, and it's a really good contrast to show you that when he was doing his superhero work, he was
Hmm.
getting stuff done every day, and he wanted to make the most out of that day. But as soon as he was back in that dismal, repetitive environment of the office, he just wanted the day to be done.
Hmm.
And I noticed, especially, those cancer patients who want to make the most out of they have like 3 years to live. Or my grandfather, for example, as he doesn't even know how long he has to live. They stop doing what they used to do, and they focus on doing what means the most to them. And I think that's a lot
Mm.
about building the legacy, right? My grandfather, he doesn't know how long he has to live, so he's trying to do the most to build his legacy and not necessarily make people remember him, but
Hmm.
help people remember what he was there to help each other with,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Service to others.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes you can get such a high from helping other people and giving to them because it's so
Mm.
altruistic. It like sets you free. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, and
Okay.
that's exactly why Samoa was such a great experience.
I'm sorry. Say that one more time, please.
That's exactly why Samoa was such a great experience.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you have that connection with your grandfather because
Yeah.
There's something also about positive role models when we see it modeled. It's
Mm,
one thing, and you probably know who Tony Robbins is, and there's probably so many other great speakers, and I'm sure you've gone to personal
mm.
development workshops and they talk about like dreaming big. But it's one thing, it's like if you see it on stage and you don't know that person, but it's a whole other thing if you know someone that's like leaning into their life.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. Leaning in is the biggest thing.
Hmm.
And I'm really glad you brought up leaning in because that is something that I 100% focus on and tell everyone else to focus on that too. Because, in fact, actually, behind my camera, no joke, on this wall, written, printed out on a massive piece of paper, is back yourself.
Back
That's
yourself.
it. Back yourself. And that's like leaning in,
Yeah.
right? Because the vast majority of people who might tell it to your face, but really don't believe in you
Hmm.
is vast in this world.
Because
Because
they don't believe in
especially
themselves.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And everyone feels so insecure when people have so much success. Well, look, I can't say this about America. I find it mostly about Australia, a tall poppy syndrome and cutting other people down. But yeah, look, back yourself because just got to lean in and follow through with what is there to do.
Yeah. So what I think is interesting, and then I'll go on to the next question because I know I've got a window
Yeah.
of time with you today. So I think what happens sometimes is when somebody's growing up, and it could be their parents or their caretakers or teachers
Mm,
or whoever, they say like, "Well, Drew, don't run out to the middle of the street," and they're trying to protect you.
mm,
But the reality is, if you run out to the middle of the street and you learn how to trust yourself with the danger and the opportunity and all
mm.
those things, you're better off compared to never having had that rite of passage. And when I
Yeah.
say run out into the street, obviously that danger is like if a car runs you over and you're like 5 years old or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening is someone is like 18 or 21, and if they don't know themselves, then it's like they're getting other people to tell them how valuable they are in feedback. And a part of
Mm,
that is it's good to hear other people's voices, but the other part of that is they never learn how to love themselves. And if they don't know how
yeah.
to like themselves, what you refer to as that taller poppy syndrome, or I think they call it like lobsters in Canada, because the crabs and the
Right.
lobsters pull others down. It's
Ah,
because
yes.
yeah, it's because well, they didn't get to trust themselves. So how can you run to the middle of the football field with such
Mm,
confidence? And such skill sets
exactly.
or such like a muscle power when it comes to success, because like with every level of income or every level of success, especially if you like
Yeah.
lose it and you have to rebuild it. I mean, this is
Mm.
like when you know yourself so well that it's like you could, yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could show you this wall behind because I'm not even kidding. There's another piece of paper right next to it, and it says, "If you do not believe in yourself, no one else will."
Yeah, that's absolutely
And
true.
it's not about being selfish. It's not about being unrealistic. You obviously have to be realistic with what you do. If cars are coming, you're not going to run out on the street in front of the car, right?
Sure, sure.
But
Sensibilities, common sense.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. But you just got to keep pushing with that thing that you set your mind to. And the you're entirely right about understanding who you are and loving yourself
Hmm.
because there's an element of just there's going to be those days that come across that things are going wrong.
Hmm.
And personally, when things go wrong, I don't like things to go wrong. So my initial action is to try and fix it, and I keep thinking about it until it's fixed. That's
Hmm.
not great because it could be the littlest thing over here in the business that needs to be fixed,
Hmm.
whereas everything else that's happening great is all the way over here. But this one little thing, I personally get hung up on, and the only thing I can do, it's kind of crazy. I sit down with one of our team members in the agency, and I have a chat to him.
Hmm.
And it's like, holy crap, we are not actually that bad because I'm so focused on this little tiny thing over here that's going wrong, sitting down with a genuine person, in fact, someone that we have in the team that, we pay to just sit down with me and to understand and just go, you know what, things aren't that bad. We can just keep moving.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you for speaking into that.
No
Because it's all
stress.
relative. And I think the challenge, Tony Robbins even said it once, thank your problems, because those problems are building
Yeah.
muscles. And sure, nobody wants problems, like, oh, more problems. There was a hip hop song in the United States called More Money, More Problems. I think it was by like the Notorious B.I.G. or something.
Isn't it Mo money, more problems? I'm pretty sure it's
Something.
Mo.
Yeah, we won't rap
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome too. I'm here.
okay. Many young founders in general, they'll chase freedom. Others chase
Yeah.
security. Which one do you feel you're really building, as well as why?
That is a tough question because freedom and security, in my opinion, come hand in hand. Because of course, I want the freedom to be able to do. I want the freedom to be able to go places and accomplish this legacy that I was chatting to you about before, but also
Hmm.
security in terms of being not only secure and safe
Hmm.
from with security, but also security in terms of security within the current bracket that I've worked myself to, right?
Hmm.
And that's a great question. I personally am aiming for both because right now it's really tough to pick one particular item out of that. And the pursuit of growing this business, as I've said, is to help build people's dreams. And by building their dreams, we're not only providing that freedom to be able to execute their dreams, but we're also
Hmm.
providing the security to have success in those dreams.
Yeah, I think that's wow, that's I think you're very lucky that the your parents and those that have gone before you aren't, how do I say this? It's because of all the hardships that they've gone through, they can
Mm.
now propel you forward because of their lessons. It's
Yeah, look, that's a tough one actually. My grandfather that I've spoken to him about, that I've spoken to you just now about a lot, is he was one of the biggest advocates for me to go to university. He
okay,
got so annoyed that I wasn't at university, but
because
I'll
you saw
tell
it
you
as
why.
opportunity.
Not quite, because
Okay.
he left his house at 17. He
Hmm.
didn't go to university. He didn't have a work-life balance, and he worked his butt off for his early 20s and all the way through, right?
Okay.
He looked at me and he thought to himself, he went to so much effort to work so hard and
Hmm.
not go to university. So why does his grandson have to go through the same process, right? So out of a like a nurturing sensation, he wanted me to go to university. So
Hmm.
I wasn't subjected to the same hardships that he was.
Hmm.
And when I chat to him, it's so funny. I chat to him about hardships that I've come across, and he goes, "Yeah, I've had the same." So I'm not necessarily building from his learnings only,
Hmm.
right? I'm running into the same hiccups and challenges and setbacks and falling forward that he was as well. But it's an element of running out into the road and experiencing managing the traffic and dodging the cars, as you've said before, for myself.
Yeah, there's an interesting story before I go on to the next question. I'm trying to
Yeah,
work through all of these in a
yeah,
timely manner. There's a hip hop rapper called Jay-Z in the United States, and there was a Rolling Stone
yep,
article where he spoke about how the challenges that his father went through, he found those same challenges in his life to work through. And I thought, isn't that interesting? I don't know if it's like an energetic thing regarding quantum entanglement or what it is, but I think we all get tested, particularly as we grow. Can
mm,
we um, grow past the challenges of our parents and grandparents and those that have come before us because they couldn't, or they didn't
yeah,
have the courage, or perhaps they didn't have the same um, backing in
mm,
terms of like where they are in life. Like Mariah
yeah,
Carey, who's a singer in America, she spoke about she was only able to do as well as she did because her mother was an opera singer. So it was like her
mm,
mother set up the momentum energetically, and then Mariah Carey then just built off of that.
yeah, yeah. No, totally. I completely agree with that, 100%. I am running into the same hardships as my. I'm not like not the. I'm not running into a hardship of going to a concentration camp, of course, because full
Mhm.
respect to those folks that did, because that is an absolutely phenomenal thing that they were able to overcome. But what
Mhm.
I am running into is similar struggles to my more recent family, and the I can chat to them and they go, "Oh, this is one of the ways that we overcame it." Obviously, I have to overcome it myself, but with
Mhm.
the knowledge that they've generated from overcoming it themselves, I can definitely talk them through it. So just like Mariah Carey and the opera singer, uh, Mariah Carey probably chatted to her mum about the hardships that her mum faced when performing, or like to the extent of like possibly a dry mouth, or hyping up before the stage and pushing
All
through
those
with the
nuances.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, because the pressure comes and so forth. Okay, well, I am very impressed. You're 20 years old and you're thinking about all of these things, but I think with success,
Mm.
we're called to grow. We're asked to push through those growing pains. Okay, so when someone achieves financial success very early, it often accelerates deeper questions. Has building wealth changed the way you think about meaning, responsibility, and or contribution?
I don't think the wealth part has changed the way that I think about responsibility because
Okay.
I feel as though it's not necessarily the money in the bank that I took think about responsibility.
Hmm.
As the income grows, as my responsibilities grow, so does as a result the
Hmm.
income. So it's not like as if another digit comes into my bank balance, I suddenly have more responsibilities. It's a very much a growing progression of those those responsibilities that I've had to onboard. Does that sort of answer your question?
It does. Well, I think that your relationship with the responsibility probably would be the same whether you're making, I don't know, $50,000 a year or five
Mm.
million, because money is an amplifier. Just like
Yeah,
success and failure are an amplifier, money just makes us who we already are. So if
yeah.
how you approach responsibility or even meaning, I think it just, yeah, I don't know if it changes a person. It can. I think it gives you more options.
Look, definitely there are sayings money changes people, but I feel
Hmm.
like the money changes the people because it's based on how they spend it,
Hmm.
right? And the way that I'm spending money right now is back into the business, right? I'm
Hmm.
not going out and buying all this sort of stuff. I'm not going out and wasting all of the money that I have in the bank. And personally, I think I actually have too much money in the bank that's just sitting there doing nothing.
Okay.
But I'm trying to right now, I am sorting up an investment system, but that's fine. That's a different conversation for another time. But the fact of the matter is, when someone wins the lotto, for example, the person themselves, there's been people who win the lotto and spend it all on nice cars, fancy houses, and cool items, or people that invest the money, right?
Hmm.
When you look at it, they're two different people. They've won the same, relatively same amount of money. And you guys in the USA have insane jackpots for your money, your lottos and everything like that. It's
Sure,
insane.
sure.
How much was your recent one? Like $200 million or something?
I don't know, but I keep going.
Yeah. So the money, in my opinion, didn't really change the person, right? The
Okay.
person was either willing to waste it or the person was willing to spend it wisely,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And the the responsibilities come once they've spent the money there because they either have a bunch of depreciating assets in terms of cars or they've invested the money. But the
Hmm.
person themselves is the same because they were willing to do one of those two parts. They were
Hmm.
willing to make the conscious decision. And it's not that suddenly they've already had $100 million cross them and they've gone from a responsible to an irresponsible person. They were always going to make that decision, in my opinion. But it depends on how responsible you are and the predispositioned opinions. It's not going to instantly flick a switch. And it, does that answer your question?
It does. And I appreciate that you're speaking into that because I think a lot of times
Mm.
people have these assumptions that money is just going to, quote, change the person. It can, but many times
Yep.
it doesn't. It depends already what are their internal conversations.
Exactly.
And
Internal
also, are they
conversation.
ready to spend the money? Some people, they have so much money and they can't even buy brand new kitchen cabinets. So it just
Yep.
depends on, okay, do you ever feel a sense of urgency? Like you need to build something that truly lasts? And if so, where do you think that drive comes from?
I always feel the urgency, always feel urgency. And
Okay.
that drive, whew, that drive just comes from going back to that family again. I don't want to
Okay.
let anyone down. And
Okay.
the drive also comes from I see people double my age who are successful, and I go, goodness gracious, I need to get there because they're
Hmm.
making real difference to the world. They're building a legacy, and I want to get to the stage where it's a genuine, meaningful legacy. There are people in the USA right now who are making genuine changes to the whole of humanity, and just one little 20-year-old guy in Australia is not at that stage yet,
Hmm.
but my goal is to be there, and that is the urgency because I could wait. I could go, you know what, I'll just pause this for a minute and come back later.
Hmm.
But there are people relying on me right now. Our clients are relying on us to scale their brand. Our
Hmm.
team members are relying on me to pay them and keep their lives up, keep their children fed, keep all of that, all of their lives running too. So that's another level of urgency compounding.
Well, it's interesting about the pressure, and there's an interesting conversation that's happening right now regarding individuals that are affluent who want to take on
Mhm.
more. And what I mean by that is they'll have their business, but then they'll add, it's not just a layer of philanthropy, but it's willing to solve world problems. And I think to myself,
Yeah,
I think it's beautiful. I think that is wonderful. But does it also add another layer of pressure? Absolutely. And is that
100% it
individual
does.
Yeah, is that individual
Yeah.
ready for it? If they're ready for it, that's great. But it's also putting, um, I mean, if they're up for the challenge, by all means, step into it. But
Yeah.
I also think about, can that pressure sometimes crush them? Because it's kind of like
Mhm.
Elon Musk. When you brought
Yeah.
him before, he's running multiple businesses, and yeah, I think that trend is interesting because I think
Mm.
particularly young people today, Generation Z and millennials, they're asking themselves questions around, well, if the governments aren't going to do it, if politicians aren't going to do it, now you've
Yeah.
got this whole level or layer of affluent young people coming up that are willing to take personal agency for world problems today. And so it's not just business as usual. It's not just their e-commerce store.
Yeah. 100%.
Ah,
Mm.
okay. You've spoken about creating systems and businesses that scale beyond you. Is
Mm.
that purely strategic, or is there something personal about wanting what you build to outlive you?
Oh, goodness gracious. Yes, 100%. The goal for me, as I've said, it would be great for the cultivator to take off further than myself.
Hmm.
And obviously, from the perspective of my grandfather, he's he wants things to carry on from when he was alive. He doesn't have long to live now,
Hmm.
and he wants to spend all of that time with people that he's helped or help other people and get around the community more. So, same token with the cultivator. And go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking, there's brand new questions that come up. Like, for
Yeah,
instance, like if you were to have a 100-year plan, what would that 100-year plan be? And so, in other words, what that is like kicking out the soccer ball. I think it's called the football in
yeah,
other countries. Okay. But kicking out the
yeah,
soccer ball, like, 3 generations out. But that's not that conversation that you might have with the average Joe at your local coffee shop. I wonder if you can have
yeah.
that conversation with your grandfather.
Yeah, look, he would probably look at me and go, "Where did that question come from?" And then we would finally get it. But he would probably look into it and go, "Where is this guy going? Like, what does he want to know?" But
Mhm.
definitely, we could definitely have that conversation. And 100-year plan, it would definitely take some thinking. But the fact of the matter is, there's been a lot of generational wealth that have been messed up by following families and following descendants of individuals who've created wealth, and that that becomes very different to self-created wealthy people because obviously the self-created individuals have that drive and that determination to actually create individuals that create the systems and the businesses themselves, but the descendants are already brought into that and they might not have the same drive, right?
Mhm.
It obviously is very much individual. Myself, I've looked at my ancestors and I've gone, hey, look, I need to keep the growth happening, but I'm not necessarily sure if that's reciprocated across a lot of different individuals. However, the 100-year plan would my 100-year plan, I would need to take a minute to think about that one.
Yeah, I'm not putting
But
you on the spot. I'm not, I just, it's what I'm
100%.
bringing up is that with success, new questions come up, the
Mhm.
quality of questions change. And you may have
Mm.
never, like I think we chatted about in our icebreaker, you may have never sat at the dining room table or the holiday meal table with your parents and said,
Yeah,
all right, as you're carving the turkey or whatever, at the table,
yeah.
let's talk about
Mm.
100 years out. They might not even, they could have been thinking, how do we pay our electricity bill? Or they may have been thinking about, we'd like to go to the movies this weekend, or
100%.
right? And so,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, the questions can draw people closer together, but they are new questions. It's not new sports and weather. Like it's brand new
Yeah,
conversations.
it's another level of questioning, right?
Hmm.
It's another level of thinking and planning forward. And there's this individual from America. Unfortunately, he's passed away. He's called Lou Tice.
Okay.
And Luke Tice, he was a he was a coach of some description before all of these new coaches came along, and he taught thinking and he taught planning, and his major thing was affirmations, right?
Hmm.
And planning ahead and going, all right, well, what do I want to achieve? What do I want to do? What do I want to make other people feel? And how can I convey that,
Hmm.
right? And I I forget the name of his course. He was called the Pacific Institute, right?
Okay.
And he taught this his thinking level on many stages in front of
Sports
NFL
teams.
teams.
Hmm.
Yep,
Hmm.
in front of large corporations in the USA, and he taught affirmations, even though affirmations might not apply to a sports team. But when you think about it, the way that he teaches it, they do.
Well, absolutely. It's the internal conversation.
Mm.
People sometimes forget about internal resourcefulness, and that is the
Yeah,
unlimited gold mine inside of people.
yeah,
Sometimes you can't find the answers or the inspiration outside of you.
yeah,
Sometimes you got to go within and say, like, okay, how do I pull courage up now? How do I pull
yeah.
imagination up right now? So if somebody can have an
Mm.
affirmation, like I think a moment ago you said, like, back yourself. That's an affirmation.
100%.
Yeah.
100% it is. And that's exactly what Lou Tice talks about. And going back to your question about, in your statement about the 100-year plan, Lou Tice talks about planning ahead, planning next year, planning even 2 years ahead. You might
Mm-hmm.
not be able to have a very detailed plan at all, but write it down and you
Mm-hmm.
can work backwards from it. It's
Mm-hmm.
about having that next level of thinking, that in-depth level of thinking to be able to go, look, this is where I want to be, and this is where I want to work back from. Because one of the biggest things he says is that you might be working for 2 years and you
Mm-hmm.
might not feel like you've worked anywhere. But if
Mm-hmm.
you, at the start of that 2 years, if you set out your goal, your affirmation to be at that particular point in 2 years, you'll get there and you'll feel accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't set that goal, you won't be ticking a goal because there's no goal set. So you'll be working, 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 and get to a stage where on out people looking from outside might go, wow, goodness gracious, this guy's moved a long way. But from inside, your internal monologue, your internal thinking would be going, oh, goodness gracious, there's still a lot ahead of me. Right. And you
Yeah.
don't feel that accomplishment.
Well, I think that's what, if somebody can protect their mindset, that's what makes
Mm,
sports teams win. And so even if there's a
100%.
solo entrepreneur out there or a business owner, a founder, and they can protect their mindset, that's like
Mm,
so important. That is so
genuinely.
important. Some people laugh and they go, ha ha, ha, affirmations, but nobody laughs at the team that gets the NFL, whatever it's called. I'm not a football sports
Yeah.
person, but I think it's compounded because there's sponsorships. It's compounded because you've got, thousands of witnesses or millions of witnesses watching from the stadium. But with a solo entrepreneur, there's still eyeballs watching, but a part of it is they're watching, are you going to say what, are you going to do what you said? Yeah.
100%. And
Okay.
especially a solo entrepreneur, you have to set those goals because you're the
Mhm.
person backing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I know I've got, again, a limited time. Okay.
No
So for
stress.
many people, legacy is something they think about later in life, which has been a very interesting journey in this coaching capacity because a lot of times people think about legacy as either like death or taxes. So what
Yeah.
does legacy mean to you right now at age 20?
Legacy means to me is something that I'm still building. So
Mm,
I really want to keep building this legacy because setting out on such a journey at this stage, well, I'm already leaving a legacy with individuals such as this fellow in our team called Pablo, who we were able to send his kids through college, and because he was brought on in our team, we were able to pay him and all of that
mm.
sort of thing. So that's leaving a legacy with him and building his family, and the more people that I can. I'm not going to say touch because touch is a terrible word to use in this phrasing, but the more people I can impact in this journey,
Influence,
influence
contribute to.
100%. Yeah, the more people that I can influence and impact in this journey in a positive way is the legacy that really makes me feel fulfilled. Because there are genuinely so many people in the world that are around and floating around, but everyone is in their own lives, and the more lives that I can come in and impact positively, the more that they will be able to pass on that good value and pass on their good ideas. And like we were discussing before, those ideas that we're helping to build and scale and foster and cultivate through this
Mhm,
legacy is something that they will be able to impact other people in a positive way. And it's just a self-propagating effect of just goodness
mhm.
and my goal and eventuality, just like some of those larger individuals with larger business in America, is impacting humanity in such a positive way in terms of expanding colonization in other planets and developing technologies that can assist with different sicknesses and that scale. Obviously, I'm by no means on that scale yet, but definitely I can't tell you for a fact on where I'm going to be in the next 5, 10 years and what legacy I'll be living at that stage. But what I can tell you for a fact is that I'm giving it my utmost importance and effort right now to be impacting individuals in a positive way and spreading goodness throughout their life and scaling up their beliefs.
Yeah, and I do think the energy of the karma comes back.
Yeah. Well, yes, I do definitely. I just got baptized actually a week or so ago, and that's just because, I love giving back. I helped garden at that church, and they were like,
Hmm.
"Hey, do I get baptized?" I'm like, "Sure." So, it's just about impacting lives. And a mate of mine says to me, "Hey, Drew, you're the chief of side quests." And I go, "What does that even mean?" And I think it's his interpretation of just trying to impact people and leave a legacy and dot yourself positively through all of these different lives
Hmm.
to just create some sort of motion, motivation, and momentum through scaling I use scaling, but just improving their beliefs and their goals.
Yeah, and their life and their business, like you had said before. I think it's
Exactly.
so interesting. Money can change somebody's address,
Mm,
where they live.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking ahead, 10 or 20 years, what would make you feel proud, not just of what you built, but of who you became in the process?
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, I just said I have no idea where I'm going to be 5 to 10 years, so I genuinely have no idea where I'm going to be in 10 to 20 because
Okay.
20 years is literally double my age right now. But
Hmm.
look, I hope to have a family. I hope to be at the stage where we have a good impact and a good standing with the cultivator or whatever company that I'm running across multiple nations, so we can be impacting all these people from different cultural backgrounds. Just like I
Hmm.
talked about Samoa. I've stayed in touch with these folks from Samoa, and I'm really keen to be bringing something back there sometime soon. But my goal is just to positively impact people's lives.
I
That's
think
it.
that would make you feel proud.
100%.
Yeah. If you gave and you can look back at a track record of giving. Yeah, not
100%.
just your balance sheet or bank account, but a track record of lives you've contributed to.
Well, that's right. And the way that I look at it is, of course, for me, it costs money to impact more lives
Hmm.
because, I got to buy the flights and I got to get the transport and I got to bring on more people in the team so we can talk to more people at once because I can only talk to so many people at once.
Because
Um,
so yeah, it's resources and seed capital.
Exactly, exactly. And that for me requires more money to be able to invest in all these different places. But the fact of the matter is, yes, I completely agree. It would be great to be impacting people in 10 to 20 years at the same momentum. Essentially, I just want to keep this momentum up that we have now.
Okay.
That's one of my biggest goals.
Yeah. If future generations in your family looked back at this chapter of your life, what do you hope they would understand about the choices that you're making today?
I hope they would just sit there and nod and go, "Yep, that is on par." And the fact of the matter is, for the cultivator and the way that we help businesses right now, I just want it to continue. And I want that to just keep growing and growing and us to help scaling other businesses and it just to all culminate in creating a legacy of, I'm not going to say prosperity, but possibly prosperity in not only money, but also cultural and positive beliefs in scaling these people's lives.
Lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for any of the other young entrepreneurs who are succeeding quickly like yourself, but they haven't yet paused to think about legacy, which happens oftentimes with
Mm,
individuals that are building a business and then one day they sell the business and then it's like, oh, they can think about legacy, but they're in like this
yeah.
brand new world because they're like, they don't know what to do with themselves. Okay. What question do you think they could be asking themselves right now as we draw to a close?
Look, I think they should definitely just ask themselves, what am I doing now? What could I be doing? And what have I felt by doing it? Because I think, a gut feeling is really one of the most important things, especially for legacy. I'm not saying numbers.
Hmm.
Never rely on a gut feeling when you're looking at numbers on a spreadsheet,
Hmm.
because numbers tell a totally different story. But especially for legacy and more cultural understandings and more cultural assistance, I would definitely recommend just going out and going, hey, how can I give back? How can I put a smile on someone's face today? And just go ahead with that.
Hmm. What's a good website before
What's a good website?
for if someone would like to learn more about
Yeah.
you and your
Look,
business?
we run the cultivator. If you're
Okay.
interested in talking to me, I genuinely love working with brands. I love helping people scale, as I've said in this podcast. So just look me up on Google, Drew Carmichael, or the cultivator, and I'm sure we can jump on a phone call and have just a great chat about what you do, what we do, and just like that guy that met me the other year, and I gave him 3 tips. I could give you some tips on scaling a store or anything along those lines.
I think it's brilliant. So I will also include your website in the show notes.
Oh,
Let me just
brilliant.
circle back to the start of today's episode. We set the intention of what if your legacy could build others up in designing their dreams and their business, and obviously, ultimately, their life legacy. And I think we have fulfilled that business promise today. You spoke about at the onset of our conversation today, managing relationships as well as
Mm,
money as one of the insights that you've gained, even if you've just been in
mm,
business a couple of years, realizing it, because with the velocity of money and business growth, a lot's going to be coming at you hard and fast, and figuring out how do you manage all these relationships, because sometimes you have to have tough
mm,
conversations with customers and associates and so forth. But you also spoke about helping out regarding
100%.
Samoa and seeing that other cultures value family over business. And you also talked about this idea of corner stores. Do they have a fair chance today compared to the giants that have the deeper
Mm,
pockets? Can they still stay open, or are we just going to, in America, as we say, just shop from Walmart or Target, or can we have some other
that's right.
choices? Yeah. And I also appreciated most of all that you spoke about realizing that you have to back yourself, because if not, what you had referred to in Australia as the taller poppy syndrome can clip
Mm,
your wings, and there's no sense of that. But you also have to be strong, not just strong in your business, but also strong in terms of your personal development. And I also most of all
100%.
liked what you said about freedom as well as security. So thank you very much, Drew, for your time today.
Thank you for your time as well, Angelina. It's been a pleasure to be on your podcast, and I hope to be seeing you soon.
Yes, yes. Okay, so in closing, I'm Angelina Carlson, the hostess of the Design Your Legacy podcast, as well as the founder of Legacy Planning, a boutique advisory firm based out of Beverly Hills, California, United States, but international in those I get to coach and consult. I hope to dive deep into subjects that can help a person define, develop, and execute their legacy and continue to scour the landscape for those who can be great resources to every dimension of your legacy. For many listeners or viewers, there can never be enough education or preparation in the moat around your castle. Whether you find yourself with new wealth or generational wealth, may the content on this channel be an anchor in any storms ahead. We do our best to provide you with fulfilling your intellectual and emotional curiosity with our content. So if you're tuning in right now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., please remember to rate and review, share with your family and friends. If you feel so inclined, send an email to either Drew or myself and let us know your thoughts and feelings about today's conversation. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Drew, for speaking into your
Thank
legacy.
you so much. I really appreciate it, Angelina. Have a great rest of your day, and I appreciate everyone from tuning in on this podcast.